I never believed in ghosts, not really. But when I inherited my late uncle's old countryside house, everything began to feel wrong. The estate agent said it had been empty for decades, yet the moment I stepped inside, the air felt dense, almost like it remembered me. Dusty rays of sunlight fell through the tall windows, illuminating the floating motes of dust, but they didn't make the house feel alive. They made it feel watched. The place was enormous, more like a small mansion than a house. Every hallway seemed to twist slightly, doors led to rooms that weren't on any floor plan, and the wooden floors creaked even when no one was there. My uncle had always been a recluse, and now I could see why. From the start, one door caught my attention. At the end of a narrow hallway on the second floor, there was a small wooden door, aged and scratched, without a handle or latch. There was no keyhole, yet something about it made my chest tighten. I tried to ignore it. After all, it was just an old house. That first night I couldn't sleep. Every creak, every groan of the house seemed louder than usual. Shadows flickered at the corner of my vision, moving just out of reach. At first I told myself it was my imagination, but soon I heard it, soft, deliberate whispering. My name, not once but over and over, growing clearer, almost pleading. The following day I began searching. I examined every drawer, every shelf, every dusty nook. I found old diaries, sepia photographs, and letters, each revealing more about my uncle than I'd ever known. But the key, the one to the little door, was hidden in a place I would never have expected, under a loose floorboard in the attic, tucked in a bundle of dust and cobwebs. The brass key was tiny, almost fragile, yet it fit the door perfectly. My hand shook as I turned it. A quiet click echoed in the hallway. I braced myself and pushed the door open. Inside was a tiny room, almost a closet, empty except for a single rocking chair. It moved slowly, back and forth, as if someone had just left it. On the floor lay a bundle of letters. I hesitated, then picked them up. They were from my uncle, written in a hand I had never seen. The letters told a story I could never have imagined. My uncle had a twin sister, lost in that very house decades ago. He had tried to contact her every day of his life, using rituals, messages, and notes. He believed the house itself was a bridge between the living and the lost. The whispers returned as I read the letters, clearer now, echoing through the hallways. But they were not angry. They were grateful. I realized the house had not been trying to frighten me. It had been waiting for someone who could finally listen, someone who could understand. Over the next few days, I explored more. I noticed things I hadn't before, cold drafts that moved in patterns, lights flickering without reason, and sometimes the faint sound of footsteps following me up the stairs. Once, I found a faded photograph of my uncle's sister taped to the back of a mirror, her eyes seeming almost alive. I could swear she smiled at me whenever I looked away. I started speaking to her aloud as if she were in the room, and slowly the house's oppressive atmosphere changed. The whispers softened. The shadows paused. It was as if my attention, my acknowledgement, was enough to calm something that had been restless for decades. Finally, I closed the small door, carrying the letters with me. I left the house for a while, needing fresh air, but at night I still hear her laughter, faint and warm, echoing through my dreams. And I know now, in a strange, inexplicable way, that she is at peace, and I have become part of the house's long memory, a keeper of its secrets.